Welcome back. I'm Alfred Lamont Weber, and we have the extraordinary occasion today because this is the first program in the history of Exopolitics TV that we've had devoted to the planet Venus. And we have with us two extraordinary individuals, outstanding individuals, Robert Potter and Raymond Keller. Robert is known to our audience and is a Venusian contactee of long standing, as well as a mainstay in the exopolitics and contactee community. And Raymond Keller has actually spent time on the planet Venus and has written a trilogy on Venus. And these two gentlemen are bringing here for the first time today. In fact, Zoom, Facebook, we're supposed to be streaming this live on Facebook, and Facebook would not allow Zoom to connect with it to do the live stream. So we have by Raymond Venus Rising. So we're going to turn over the festivities and to the Master of Ceremonies for this special program, to Robert Potter. So Robert, over to you, please.
Well, thank you, Alfred. I mean, I would like you to continue on and chime in as you like. My friend Raymond there, folks, I met Raymond through a mutual friend of mine. This is his second book, Rockets to Venus, a little thicker. Basically goes into a tremendous amount of documentation with footnotes and unbelievable discovery of information that was gathered not only through his phenomenal research from the age of 15, you know, the New Millennial Star, the Osiris Group, Alan J. Hynek, Sprinkle. Raymond's been working with Gabriel Green and quite a researcher. And this is his third book, Cosmic Rays, Excellent Adventure. So much information can't really be covered in one show. So what we tried to do, folks, was to, we're going to organize a show to kind of bring an introduction to you all about Venus and stuff. And I'm sure you're going to have many, many questions. So, and I'm hoping Alfred can come in with some questions at any time. So I'm going to, I guess I'll go up and, this is where I would share a screen, right? Yeah. Okay, let me get up here and share screen. Okay, this one. Oh, wow, it's right there. So I just click on this one, and now I'm going to share screen. And we're going to go to play from the start. And let me, I guess I'm going to minimize that. Okay, folks, so it really is kind of fun to do this. And I'm really happy that Alfred's been open and resonates with this. But Raymond, you're going to learn if you follow him, get his books on Amazon primarily, and then if you learn about it, it's going to open up a tremendous new vistas. For me, it really has. The understanding that, my goodness, they look exactly like us. They're actually, some of us have left here and become dual citizens in a process of a type of ascension. And so the metaphysical thing is really interesting, but I want to share with you some thoughts to kind of set the tone here. And I can't see us, so Alfred, if you want to come in here, just go ahead and say something. And you too, Raymond, you see anything in particular, since I'm sharing screen, I'm keeping it clear. And here we go. Oops. Oh, I thought it was on the.
Yeah, here you've
okay.
got. Oh, you
okay.
were at the first.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay. So I'm just going to read this to you. You can probably read along with me. So, and I just want to, it's like, dear brothers and sisters, it's a great honor and a pleasure for me to be able to share with you today my recent experiences. Furthermore, I do not take
whose words are these, Robert? Sorry.
These are my words to the audience. This is me. Did I lose you?
No, fine. I just wanted to know if this was.
This is my PowerPoint.
A Venusian or somebody.
Yeah, I'll make that clear. We're going to go through some other stuff first, if it's okay. And it's a great honor and pleasure for me to be able to share with you today my recent experiences. Furthermore, I do not take the trust placed in me by the Venusians and solar hierarchy of light. I do take it very seriously. Now more than ever, I must embody the principles of peace, harmony, and truth, as we all must. I honestly try to do my best to make love and light a palpable aspect of my character in order to transmit the message properly. A lot of time in the past, I've been very involved in emotionally trying to share this amazing experience and the journey of discovery for me personally as a contactee, as my experiences have evolved. And I've kind of been of the, feeling, I kind of declared a long time ago, you're going to have to open up and tell me straight to my face, or can't really go forward, because I've had these other experiences. So I try to do it properly without the emotions too much. And there is an aspect of this that is ego trip. There's many other contactees. So listen to what I have to say here. I strive to live the virtues of patience, kindness, and to speak with more sweetness and self-control. I have promised them to do my best to share as much knowledge as possible, so you can all hear the message as clearly as possible without my ego dominating. As far as these messages go, to truly be able to fathom the spiritual reality and the gift we are being given with these personal appearances, it requires an open heart and a discerning mind. Being free from judgment and a willingness to listen to these messages is highly recommended. In fact, I suggest you listen to the message first and maybe play it again and watch, because I am going to play it, but I'm going to be reading the messages, but we could talk about that later, because we couldn't connect the Skype where I can play the audio recording. It can't play for you. So in order to do that, I'm just going to let you see the video of me asking questions of her, and then I'm just going to read the interview to you as we move along. So a lot of people have focused on her demeanor, her clothes, her hair, her eyes. And it's an oddity. It's like the first time you've ever seen a one-eyed stegosaurus. And it's a natural curiosity. So I just want to, it's just a process of becoming, aware of it. So I certainly hope you can weigh carefully the revelation that I've been contacted and what this means. And this doesn't mean anything for me. It means something generally for the planet, in that it's a general message. They're actually saying, okay, you can look at us, see us, and we're gonna say some really basic positive things. This is not about alien invasion or threat or any of this. This is not government related. I've been encouraged to share these messages directly from our space family to the world. This should be recognized as a new level of openness, that they are providing direct messages which they are allowing me to record, so you can be able to see for yourself with your own two eyes, or emissaries in person. I hope this will not be interrupted by you to think that I'm personally am gifted or special in any way. I will also ask you to focus directly on the message rather than the commander's physical appearance, her demeanor, and how she delivers the messages. Clearly, my contacts are naturally met with a myriad of viewpoints and skepticism. I feel this is normal, and and quite healthy considering the challenges we all face today in today's digital media-filled culture. I choose to let you decide for yourself the veracity of the source of these messages. All I can say is I've been preparing my whole life to be able to be worthy. Oops. Uh-oh. I'm not worthy. Anyway,
Bottom paragraph.
yeah, all I can say is to be worthy of the confidence they have placed in my work. Okay. The question I put to you all is, do you care? And if you do care, if you do feel my experiences are real, I would pray that you would look within and meditate on what this means for you personally and for the planet of the whole. I've noticed in the exopolitical community, there's a tremendous amount of attention focused on the political aspect of the control matrix. We know who they are. It's endless. They're not giving up. They control the military police. But do they really control them? Or do we just agree to this system? It is when the military, when the police, when the people in positions of power refuse to choose greed and corruption, that real change will be enacted. And what Raymond has been teaching me with the great love that he has shared with me is that it's one person at a time. So this is the answer lies within. You want the truth, it's not them coming down and doing anything. They're not going to do it. They'll step in maybe at the very last minute if it's absolute devastation, but it's up to us to achieve peace and to create harmony amongst our brothers and sisters. We need to disempower, disenfranchise, vendetta, whatever you want to call it. You can't be violent. You have to do it through an inner decision. So that's the essence of what we need to get. And that'll be apparent as I read these messages. So this should be recognized a new level of openness that they are providing direct messages, which they are allowing me to record. Okay, I already saw that. Did I already say that? Okay. Right, okay. I'm so sorry. Realize I do acknowledge that my contact is obviously not the only first or real personal meeting with the Venusians. I stand only as one of many messengers. George Adamski, George Van Tassel, Gabriel Green, Truman Bethron, Howard Menger, Augie Roberts, Dr. Frank, and on and on and on. It says, I rest on the foundation of so many other contactees before me. Historically speaking, many of these other contactees have gifts, talents, and intimate experiences that far exceed mine. In fact, almost all of you would be shocked at the number of Earth people who have ongoing contacts. There are so many that have ascended from Earth to Venus and have enjoyed advanced spiritual teachings from the masters in person. It would inspire us all. We are surely awakening to a new dispensation that will see many others coming forward with the real and vast knowledge of the secret science of ascension. We have so many Earth souls who have reached a level of development which demands further gnosis. The hidden knowledge is by birthright and by a development being made known. And the Venusians ever stand at the ready to provide knowledge about love and the consciousness. That's really what they're here for. It's not the technology. It's not to remove the bad guys. It's not to stop chemtrails. They'd love to see all of that. But I better get into the other stuff because I get going long here. It says Venusians choose their contacts based on a spiritual vibration. If one is naturally in harmony with the truth, and if one is growing in love and merging with the mind of Almighty God, the hierarchy will intimately guide, and if there is a worthy purpose, even physically contact such a person. So now I'm going to, I don't know where that go. I'm losing the, there it is. Okay. So, all right. So this is the what this was intended to be if we had the technology going with the sound. But I'm gonna this one here. Okay, with the help of Raymond, what happened, folks, for this recording, because I've been trying to make a lot of contact for openly contact allow a recording. And Raymond was able to convince them that to do this. So this woman is Commander Aura Raines. And with the help of the Queen, who is Raymond's friend, he ordered the commander to come down. She's been in service to the Earth for 300 years. She was involved in the American and the French and the Caribbean and probably the South American Revolution, as many Venusians, where they inspired the founding fathers. They did not tell them to take up arms. They would never do that. They don't have anything to do with violence, and they would have sought to defray any violence on anyone. They did, they did feel the people had the right to defend themselves when declaring themselves free from tyranny and liberty. But at that point, the needs were very basic, and the weaponry was, you know, much simpler. So it's a different place that we live in, and everything is in the consciousness moving much faster. So this long-awaited message that I'm hearing, it's kind of anticlimactic in a way. It says, confirming that our friends from Venus are real and they have good intentions toward all mankind. Their love for us all and their support for the dissemination of truth directly to the people. So Raymond, who I met for 2 years, been talking and learning from him constantly and reading his books, went to Venus in 2012. That's a long story. I don't have time to go into that. It's in other interviews. And if you come to my conference this summer in Mount Shasta from August 26th to the 30th, that's going to be on my website, which is down now. But if you go to my Robert Potter public page, you can join me there. Or if you're my friend on the Mount Shasta summer conference page or the Victor of Light radio show, I post on all of those pages. And we're going to be appearing with Omnic, the woman from Venus, Louis Martens, Laura Eisenhower, Tracy Ash, Sarah Adams, Lorraine Fenton. And so that's going to be in the summer. Also, we're going to be appearing at the Conscious Life Expo and at the New Living Expo in San Francisco. So at these places, we're hoping to share with people openly and just we can all share our experiences and stories. So I recommend you get his books on Amazon. And after this was arranged, basically how it was arranged was Raymond never knows when he's going to be contacted. He can be walking down the street and he'll see him, and the guy will just walk into a bathroom and they'll have a quick talk. Or he's in a Starbucks or something. I mean, that was how it was described to me, that occasionally there is that type of contact. So, and sometimes he carries questions around that I had written with him, and they would answer them in a written form, or they would record messages. And the final one that I had was on November 20th last year, on the 67th anniversary of George Adamski's contact, pretty much to that, about the hour of that contact. This woman was sitting in a room. There was another gentleman there and possibly another one elsewhere, but he was a security chief. And she was dressed in this little red raspberry beret with a red sash. And they also have this image that you see here. And if you look up around her head, those are little bees, because bees are an important part of Venus and part of that life. I was pretty giddy in this to meet her and all this stuff. It was pretty exciting for me that I got this. So I was kind of like a kid, you know, like a meeting Paul McCartney in a sense, you know. And to be honest, when I was there, I was just looking at it because I knew it was being recorded and I could listen to what she was saying. But I was just more like most people are. When you first see it, you're looking at it, judging it. And I was like, okay, her hair's a different color. I understand she's, you know, has an incognito situation there. So I'm going to read, I'm going to play. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play the video for you, and I'm going to read the message is what I'd like to do. I think that's going to make, okay, I'm going to have to put the message, I can pull me out of the video. I'm not important. You just hear me a little bit, and I'll pull the, let's see, we're going to go. Okay, so I'm going to let's see what I do here. This is so sad, folks. We really thought I was prepared, but I'm not. So I need to go up to stop share for a second, and I'm going to pull up so I can see the written interview, and I'm going to make it a little smaller. I'm going to move this over here. Okay. All right, I'm figuring it out. So here's a transcript. I'll just read it. Welcome to a very special interview of the Victor of Light. She is an author. I introduce her, and then I say, she's an authorized representative for the Venusian and solar hierarchies of life. Therefore, she is uniquely qualified to answer my questions. I must tell you, Commander, it's a great honor to meet you. I wish to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for taking the time to come here today and to answer my questions. Thank you. It's a pleasure to meet you. Can you tell us at this time the overall intentions and mission of the Venusian and Galactic Federation and star family on Earth, and why you're here in ever-increasing frequency? Perhaps you might also tell us of our past relations with Venus and our galactic family. Commander Raines, certainly I will. I have prepared my notes as well, and I just wanted to mention that human technological advances in areas of weaponry delivery systems and artificial intelligence have necessitated an increase in the Venusian presence on Earth. These advances by nations on Earth have outpaced any spiritual attunement that is necessary to properly channel these technological advances into more positive areas of investigation and application that would benefit all of mankind and not just the selfish interest of national leaders. We, that is to say the Venusians, have been interacting with your world on many levels since the dawn of recorded human history. Our emissary, Olmec Olmec, and our historian, Dr. Raymond Keller, have provided further light and knowledge in respects to books on this subject. The Tibetans are very heavily influenced in context, as are many others as well, but there are two very common questions that people ask me in regard to your presence in the skies, I ask. The first is, why are governments so desperately trying to hide the reality of your existence? The second question is, why is your policy of contact so secretive? People always ask me, why don't they just simply land and let the world know and announce publicly? She goes, sure, Brother Rob. Many of the leaders in the governments and your religions in your world know all about us. So we really aren't a secret. They know that when more and more individuals among the mass population start to emancipate themselves through obtaining knowledge of our free energy systems, longevity, and the spiritual understanding, that will be the time for them, the greedy financiers, the militarists, the religious potentiates, to just step down and be away. When everyone is empowered to be a leader of their own, they will no longer be required to take orders from the selfish militarists, religious hucksters, and other opportunists. Our presence is largely secretive because the human being must demonstrate their own capacity to expand into this consciousness. They have to evolve on their own, adapt, and that would make a worthy entry into the Galactic Confederation. If we had acted as some of us have wished, I guess you could say, some of you have wished us to, it would be like giving a driver's license to a 5-year-old. You know, that was pretty short, but it was succinct to the point. So I said, I understand. I said, the second question was, can you please offer us some hope for the future of the earth? Please give us any guidance or counsel for us peacemakers to create real changes that will help us to have peace on earth. In other words, how can we, the common people, help create a situation of calm and harmony between our leaders and neighboring countries? And she goes, and that's a good question, Brother Rob. It all begins and ultimately triumphs with the individual. Everything is in the hands of the individual. Small acts of compassion, whether it's an attitude of service or demonstrates kindness to all, this will ultimately make obsolete the ridiculous demands of the bellicose militarists around you. Such an angelic manifestations are there to push out the darkness, and that will forever be eroding their influence and power. It's much like the ocean tide of your earth, as it forever crashes against the sea walls. I mean, that erosion is really slow. I would guess ours is almost slower. Lady Aura, I ask, can you speak words of wisdom to help us understand what has gone wrong in our places of worship? Can you give us the good news of understanding from a spiritual perspective? And what are the root causes of our limited understanding and the errors of our priests and teachers in these secular religions? How should we approach religion and show tolerance for others' faiths? Now, I personally kind of recognize truth. I don't really belong to a religion, a sect, or have to wear anything or follow rituals, although I appreciate truth wherever I find it. But I asked that question specifically because I think that's at the core of how we judge others. But here's what she says. Well, Brother Rob, I will give you an example. In ancient Egypt, certain individuals paid sufficient attention to the skies in order to astronomically determine the times for planting, for harvesting, and that was based on the alignment of the stellar constellations that coincided with the flooding of the Nile and the deposits of silt suitable for agriculture along its banks or in the Delta region. They parlayed this knowledge into taking power as priests and kings to rule over the people. The people were asked, how can these people tell when the sun shall be blacked out or the moon shadowed or a streak of light to appear in the vault of the heavens? They must be gods or appointed by the sky gods to rule over us. This type of Wizard of Oz scenario has never stopped being played out here on our world. Eventually, people will catch on to the game. Of course, God is a spirit, and the indwelling spirit of God is within each of us, a small spark that can be fanned into a brilliant flame. Listen carefully to the small, quiet voice that speaks to your heart, because that is the one that emanates from the true and spiritual guides and masters that walk and live among you. In the spirit of oneness, in our quest to realize the unique and true purpose of Christ's life, I ask, and mission, can you please tell us what you and the ascended masters would like us to understand about the life teachings of Christ? Certainly. Jesus is the theophanic angel described throughout the pages of our Judaic and Christian scriptures. For example, Abraham the prophet and various kings paid tithes to him. And Melchizedek, when he ruled over Salem, and he stood with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego when King Nebuchadnezzar threw him into the fiery furnace. While born human, he was fully empowered by the Holy Spirit, an avatar to humankind for the God presence that permeates this universe. In the celestial realms, he is known as Michael, the supreme angel, he being the one like unto God. Jesus came to bring a special light into the world, but very few recognize that light, let alone its importance. By dying on the cross, he sealed his testimony in his own blood, proving his enduring love for humanity. By his resurrection and eventual ascension, he manifested his divinity. Now, I am very much a metaphysical student of the teachings of Christ, and I'm not into a personality worship of Jesus, and Jesus is going to save me. And, you know, I believe the mission and teaching of Jesus was how he lived his life every day in attunement with the being and the presence of the God self that he was in that moment, and not relying on the material world. So here's my next question. Can you please clarify as much as possible the nature of evil and how it's perceived by the Venusian as it exists on Earth? Evil exists, she says, because some people are duped into following false philosophies. Listen to the types of evil. See if you fall into any of these. If you work in finance or stock market or the military, or, you know, check, see if some of these might apply, or to me as a religious pundit, maybe. Certainly evil exists, but people are duped into following false philosophies. Others have their hearts act on evil intentions. I mean, that's the whole of them. It's their core. Some manifest an evil spirit by speaking lies of others. Many work in occupations that are harmful to the innocent. Many evil ones spend their time and efforts on nefarious schemes to garner money or to manipulate. You know, scheming for the purpose of promoting that evil. Some seek knowledge to lord over others and to strip them of their sovereign rights, while other evils are trying to divert people's attention from truth and light. There's an ongoing battle for the hearts of the human being on the higher spiritual planes. On the earth and beyond, there are extraterrestrials that can operate in various dimensions. Some of them on earth have been recognized as either angels or demons, and we just have to find a way to prevail. Okay, I say. I realize money as we think it does not exist on Venus, and that your society works as one mind in accordance with natural laws. What can you tell us about how we can achieve the abundance and prosperity enjoyed by the Venusian society here on Earth? And she says, again, it seems to be a false belief that is coming into play. Economic problems on Earth are largely due to false beliefs imposed by the leaders on this planet. This false belief in many fields and promotes that there is only so much that can go around. This means that your people must fight over the crumbs of pie, let alone getting a full slice of the pie, which of course can only be enjoyed by the oligarchs. On Venus, we long ago determined that the solution of this problem is to bake more pies so that everyone can be satisfied. Credits are based on what we can do to help our sisters and brothers meet their needs. On Venus, we even have a Department of Happiness to oversee this process. Continue in the light of Venus. This is Commander Raines, Aura Raines, blessings to all, and the ultimate victory of the light. I say thank you very much. It's been an honor. I said, thank you for coming such a long way. She goes, you're welcome. I do enjoy travel. And then Raymond reminds her there was an overall message, and I'm going to deliver it at the Conscious Life Expo, but I'm delivering it now in full with Alfred here. And she says, Queen Order and the celestial hierarchy of light send greetings to all friends of Venus. I am Aura Raines, the Venusian commander of the moon base situated on the dark side of your planet's natural satellite. I visited your world countless times over the past few centuries. I first dispatched here to aid the America, Caribbean, and French revolutionists in their mighty tasks of securing liberty equality, fraternity for all of their respective peoples. That was in the latter half of the 18th century. By the time you receive this message, it will be February 7th, 2020, the Conscious Life Expo being held in your most beautiful city of Los Angeles, California. At this assembly, Brother Robert Potter and Raymond Keller will be presenting vital information about your sister world, Venus. Brother Robert strives for the victory of light, and Dr. Keller chronicles the history of Venus, or Albahar, the planet of the bees, as it is known by its inhabitants. Of Robert and Raymond, all we can say is this: hear them. Once again, in the orbital path of Earth, we approach Valentine's Day. One cannot emphasize enough the importance of Venus to the inhabitants of Earth, the solar system, and even beyond to countless other celestial civilizations. An accurate knowledge of Venus and our ways of life are essential for kickstarting both your personal and planetary spiritual ascension. There are many gaps in your Terran or earthly systems of education that need to be filled. This covers all segments of your investigations, or better state this, all areas of ongoing research. Your religious concepts are for the most part good and basic and good. However, they're sorely lacking in sufficient depth. On Venus, we have successfully integrated these into a coherent whole. And what is the tie that holds these binds together? It is love. And that's what planet Venus and Valentine's Day are all about, love. A love for teaching of subjects and a love for the students who will carry over to the young ones. They will inspire them. They will begin to draw upon the majestic powers within them. It will be like magic watching them grow and move mountains in powerful new directions, breaking down the obstacles that constrain the human being. This amazing power comes from the well of love deep within the heart of each individual. Called by a vision of Christ in a flash of blinding light to become a messenger of truth, once taught that of earth an important doctrine esteemed by all of Venus in the lighter densities. 1 Corinthians 13, the supremacy of love. And folks, I'm going to tell you, this is pretty much probably as it was written. I think I would take this translation over the Bibles, but this is it. If I speak in the language of humans and angels but have no love, I become a reverberating gong or a clashing cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can understand all secrets and every form of knowledge, and if I have absolute faith so as to move mountains but have no love, I'm nothing. Even if I give away everything that I have and sacrifice myself but have no love, I gain nothing. And folks, I have to tell you that of all the things I heard from Commander Rains that day, this struck me because I'm a very intellectual and I'm looking for answers and truth, but it's really about the feeling, and the feeling has to be love. If I'm trying to jam, spinach down your throats, you're not going to accept it. So I've realized long ago that, cooperation and doing no harm to others and working together and being kind is the solution. And yet there seems to be this incredible hostility that seems to be inbuilt into a system which we enable and abide to. So that was very important to me. So I'm going to finish that poem. Love is always patient. Love is always kind. Love is never envious or arrogant of pride. Nor is she conceited, and she is never rude. She never thinks of just herself or ever gets annoyed. She is never resentful, is never glad with sin. She always glad to side with truth and pleads that truth will win. She bears up under everything, believes in the best of all. There is no limit to her hope, and never will she fall. Love never fails. Now, if there are prophets, they will be done away with. If there are languages, they will cease. If there is knowledge, it will be done away with. For what we know is incomplete, and what we prophesy is incomplete. But when what is complete comes, then what is incomplete will be done away with. When I was a child, I spoke like a child, thought like a child, reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I gave up my childish ways. Now we see only an indistinct image in the mirror, but then we will be face to face. Now what I know is incomplete, but then I will know fully, even as I have been fully known. Right now, three things remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. And I felt that uh, what I learned is that there's such a vastness in all the material worlds. Even if a planet or a system it lives for trillions of years, it eventually changes and reconstitutes, and spontaneously some new form of life will spring out of the infinite potential of the creative mind and different myriad forms. So it's so vast and it's so powerful, and this is the force of love. So I've got 15 more minutes, and then I'm going to kind of have some questions. So she says, despite the tragic events that plague these latter days, have no fear. Please know that the angels are always standing by to attend you. Fellow Commander Valiant Thor of the Leader Victor class Sheep Fleet's mission on Earth, currently on a mission, this is in September, in the Sirius star sector, sends his love and best wishes to all his friends of the Venus Rose Group in China, particularly the young lady who sent him the angel photos. Once again, this is Aura Reigns, Clarion Commander, on the 20th day of October, the 67th anniversary of Georgia Dempsey's initial and physical Venusian contact experience in the Mojave Desert of California. I said, thank you very much. Do you have any questions, Alfred? I'd like actually, maybe Raymond could take over the questions. You could ask any questions on that that might come up for you.
Yeah, Raymond, would you like to jump in here and give some comment or some background and some perspective as a person who actually has spent time on Venus?
Yes, true to the history of the interaction of Venusians with the human race, they are quite angelic in nature. They've been interacting with us since the beginning of recorded history. In the Bible, in Hebrews chapter 13, verse 2, it does say that we should always be kind to one another, for know ye not that ye entertain angels unawares. So this is a very high calling, and the Venusians live by the philosophy that was pretty much encapsulated in an old Sunday school poem, is that I'd rather see a sermon than hear one any day. I'd rather one would walk with me than merely point the way.
Right. So this is such a distinction. It's such a paradox. First, I'd like to say that there were in what Robert said, quoting the Venusian ambassador. I'm just using the word ambassador or delegate, Ms. Raines. She mentioned that on Venus, we've learned that it's, no one has to go after more, fight for the slices of the pies, because we've learned that we can all produce so much pie that there's a great deal of abundance. And with the universe's sense of humor, I just want to note that today, January 23rd, is National Pie Day.
Oh.
And I say that because a good friend of mine pointed that out on social media, and I thought that is so unusual that to have pie and pie come in, but at a deeper level, the ambassador reigns from Venus saying that she had been here first at the time of the French Revolution, at the time of the American Revolution, at the time of the Latin American revolutions, I suppose, you know, the time of Bolivar, the time of the Mexicans, etc. Well, astrologically, the astrologers will tell you that we are astrologically in the same sort of configurations as we were at the time of the American Revolution. And so people are sitting back and saying, oh, we're coming through another American Revolution. And of course, all of the actors on the planet are claiming it. You know, the one party is claiming it, we're the American Revolution, then the other party is claiming, no, we're the American Revolution, and then those who aren't part of the political system are saying, no, we're the American Revolution. And of course, the Venusians have been through this, and so how would you imagine that of the Venusian observer coming here now at the time again of this cycle coming around again of social revolutions? How would they see today's cycle coming again? How would they characterize it? Do you think?
What do you think,
Well,
Ross?
Yes.
What do you think?
They want to help us and guide us. They want to provide for a source of inspiration for our leaders, working behind the scenes and establishing communication with people in all walks of life, in all fields of endeavor. And this is a very important function, because there's a lot of power that needs to be channeled in the proper directions, and steered away from violence and confrontation, and more to cooperation. Back in the 1920s, Tesla was, Nikola Tesla, the great inventor, was very much obsessed with the organization of society in the future. And in Collier's magazine, he provided an interview with a reporter, Mr. Kennedy, and he said that society could emulate the beehive as to how it's collectively organized to move forward and advance for the betterment of everybody.
Right. Now, I don't know whether it's apocryphal or not, but it has been said that Tesla was from Venus. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. I have one of the chapters in my book, the final or the first book, Venus Rising: A Concise History of the Second Planet. Nikola Tesla believed that he was incarnated on the Earth plane from Venus. There was a metaphysical book that was written about his life and its connections with Venus called Return of the Dove. And he was very fascinated with doves and bees, which of course were they were like the familiars to the goddess Venus in the ancient Roman Empire. All the gods and goddesses had an attachment to the various animals. Athena with the the owl, Diana with the bear, and so forth. Lady Venus was associated with bees and the dove.
Yeah. Now, I'd like to bring up of course, Tesla uh, is very, very famous for having built his tower in the West, put it on a mountain in one of the Western states, and established a communication with Mars. And Mars is a planet that has dominated modern exopolitics. In fact, it seems like, especially the American, British, and Russian sort of power structure have established reportedly bases on Mars since the 1960s, there's, I mean, there have been whistleblowers from Mars. This channel, Exopolitics TV, has really focused on Mars and has been a platform to interview Mars explorers, whistleblowers from the Mars program, from the Mars teleportation program, and it seems as though Mars, one of my classmates, who we also judged to be a war criminal, Richard B. Cheney, the vice president under
Bush.
George W. Bush, was supposedly head of the Mars Colony Corporation, so that you had the dark side of the American establishment focusing on Mars. By contrast, isn't it amazing that one never hears in the establishment about Venus? And so could you really talk about
yes,
that?
yes,
Because it's
yes,
just
definitely.
amazing.
I'd like to say one
even
thing
going
here.
back to the time of Nikola Tesla, he had established communication in 1898 with the Venusians. He built a communication device called the Teslascope, and he heard the first thing he heard was the sound of a beehive, with his son he was living up in Canada in Quebec, and they encountered the landing of Ventla, which is a Venusian scout ship, and he wrote a book about it. So that's all detailed in my Venus Rising book. But about the vast Venus conspiracy, there have been 44 probes that have been sent to Venus by 4 countries on Earth. That would be Russia, Japan, the European Union, and the United States, with our mariners and various probes from here. The Venera probes from Russia and the Zond probes, the Akatsuki probes from Japan, and the European Venus Express. Now, this is more than any other planet, including the moon. So if it was the dead, lifeless world that the powers that be want us to think it is, why would they be spending all that time and money on sending probes there? And then the other thing is that the fact that throughout history, many of the great leaders and great thinkers have been in contact with Venusians, going back to the Roman Empire, through history to the Cathars, the Merovingians, the Sufis, people like Rumi, the great poet in the 13th century, the Sufi,
Dante, Emanuel Swedenborg,
Dante,
the Roman poet Virgil Publius Maro.
yes, and like Dante in the 3rd and 9th canto of the Divine Comedy, Il Paradiso, he describes his journey to Venus. He's guided there. By his consort here on Earth, Emanuel Swedenborg, a great scientist from Sweden and the founder of a theological movement, the New Jerusalem Church. He wrote a book about life on other planets and described his trip to Venus. We have Tannhauser was a knight coming back from the Crusades, and he wrote a poem about encountering Lady Venus passing through a wall of light into one of the Alpine mountains in a mountain pass, and spending a year there in another, literally in another dimension on Venus, before coming back. And he wrote all about it, and hardly anyone would believe him, but the record is there. And I mean, this goes on and on. It's the most little known and least understood planet, but the Venusians have been interacting with us forever, and they've got our backs. They're on our side.
I want to say one thing. Raymond has mentioned that they've got our backs, but the Venusians are very defensive. The commander of the moon base mans the base. They're watching us very closely, mostly for our protection and for theirs. So, Alfred, they have lots of platforms all around the Earth. They have the famous satellite, which I have a airbrush picture of. It's called the Black Knight, but it looks kind of like a race car. Dr. Frank had an artist do it, and it sits about 150 miles above the Earth. It's a major platform. They have platforms all within the Earth, and many spaceships, maybe 274, permanently stationed, with each of those ships having two ships that always remain in the higher dimension, either the fifth or the fourth dimension, able to react.
And Rob, and one of those communicates from Lady Orda, the Queen. Didn't she say something about the that our space program was being closely monitored, and that they would allow us to go to the moon and to?
I'm going to play. I can read that right now. Let me do that.
Oh, okay, but only to certain sectors, I think.
Right. Here's what she says. So actually, Raymond, in this particular meeting, Raymond had given my questions in a previous meeting to the security chief, Al-Anan, who was born in 600 BC during the reign of Darius the Great in the First Persian Empire. He was born into the Zoroastrian religion and was a beekeeper. And he ascended to Venus, became a dual citizen, which seems to be pretty current as we move forward into some of the future shows that you may or may not have, or for your audience who wants to follow me, come to conferences, or to invite us to come and speak. We'll learn more of the details of this kind of interaction that's kind of becoming available. And it's nothing new. It's the same message, but it's energetically becoming more available, and more people are getting the aha moment. So here's what he says. Raymond answers my questions. It says, I'm with Al-Anan in an undisclosed location in the eastern United States. First, many thanks for your kind words. Here is a word of introduction about Alan. He's a member of the Sharuna, otherwise known as the Earth-based Security Detachment at the service of the Queen's Collective on Abahar. His first and only incarnation, as I said, at Persepolis, the ancient ceremonial capital of the First Persian Empire. He was born a high court magus and a beekeeper in the Zoroastrian religious tradition. This is Publius Virgilius Maro, turning the time over to Alan. Raymond was actually, when he went to Venus, he was able to look at the Akashic records. There actually is a technology, and it's fascinating, and I think that's maybe where you could ask questions if you want. But he told Alan the questions. Alan established a telepathic communication, a link to the Queen of Venus and to Valiant Thor, as well as he answered some questions for me. And he says, it's a great pleasure for me to answer your questions, Brother Rob, to the extent that I'm able. I regret for lack of sufficient time the others cannot personally answer. However, they have empowered me to do so on their behalf. I and all others send their love and thanks to your thoughtful and beautiful gifts. I'd sent them some gifts, actually. As a friend and ally of Publius Virgilius Maro, otherwise known as Cosmic Ray, in the work of enlightening Earth seekers of truth, I will interpret the points of Virgil's reading of your correspondence, where appropriate, with my response, and Virgil will type the response. And this is, I think it's from Valiant Thor. Actually, I won't do that one. There's some, there's a guy named, a guy that wrote some books called Michael X that I really liked when I was younger. It was by a guy named Michael Art, and this is what Valiant Thor responds to me about him. Michael Barton's books are highly recommended for the most part as being instructive in guiding the seeker to an accurate and expansive knowledge of the space brothers and sisters and their missions here on Earth. To the best of his ability, Brother Barton, otherwise known as Michael X, based his writings on the most current scientific findings of the day, along with accumulated UFO data and personal investigations. Like me, Brother Barton was a student of the occult sciences and enjoyed both metaphysical and real physical contact with Abahans and other extraterrestrial entities. And Abahans means from the planet Abahar or Venusians. However, and this goes true for me or Raymond or any contactee, please keep in mind that his observations are clouded by his own background and reflect a distinct apperception, not necessarily shared or so interpreted by other contactees. Brother Rob, unfortunately, this is the type of perception adhered to by the devotees of many religions. Oh, there was a question there that I had asked. I don't want to talk about that one, but I basically said, I'm not worthy, and he says, this is the type of perception adhered to by the devotees of many religions. They falsely judge themselves harshly in the light of imposed standards of works, rather than a faith that inspires positive actions on behalf of fellow humans and other souls on the planet. In the highest celestial hierarchies, it is understood that the motivation of one's heart is a primary factor. One could say that salvation is more like joining the French Foreign Legion. It doesn't matter where you're coming from, it's only your willingness to serve humankind to the best of your ability that counts. And this is in accord with the teachings of Lord Dismas, the regent and high counselor on the planet of Venus. And I'll tell you that Lord Dismas is the one that we know as the accidental apostle. He died with Christ on the cross, and when Christ died, he ascended, actually became a full ascended master. He went to the Grand Central Sun to a very high estate, and he took Lord Dismas with him, and we know him as the ascended master of Moria. And so I was kind of concerned about my work, and it says, he says, your victory of the light mission is truly reflective of our efforts and desires for the further light and knowledge that Dr. Frank worked so hard to impart to humankind to promote its widest disseminations. Many celestial blessings always encompass and protect the light workers in the ring of the holy and purifying fire. Allow the angels of each of us to do what we can to preserve this world, created for all humankind in the spirit of divine love. Let every moment be filled with God's creative power for all eternity. Our channels are always open. Okay, so here's, I asked some questions to Alon. And I was curious about the blue Syrians and the avians and Corey's experience, right? And I was asking about it, and she said, we share an awareness of those beings of Corey Gooden, attest that he has had experienced some contact with what they call non-alive beings. There are interdimensional beings similar to the blue avians that Corey Good has described in his presentations. And I guess I should say real quick here, non-alive beings means there are many different federations, Alfred, in this, not only in this galaxy, but in this radial arm of the galaxy. There's probably countless types of confederations, alliances, systems that work together and trade together. And from my understanding, and Raymond can talk about this, they do. So the group that he's contacting is not a member of our federation. Our federation includes some planets in the Pleiades. Realize there are 250 stars in the Taurus cloud star cluster that we would call the Pleiades. We can only see 7. In Sirius, there's not only Sirius A and B, but Raymond can spit out the facts on, other, faint things in site reports where they've shown them. But he says, this is what he says in response to that kind of. So he says, there also exist many other hybrid species of extraterrestrials created in an epoch known as the Sirian shift that occurred countless millennia ago with the expansion of Aldebaran forces outside of their own star sector and the Pleiades cluster as well. And what this is saying is that some Aldebaran forces and some beings in the Pleiades developed a type of technology that allowed them, that we're engaging in now. It's called recombinant DNA, and actually splicing humans with other animal types and consciousnesses, kind of playing God and, creating is it diversity or is it, suffering and strife? When they did it on Venus, the beings from Venus originally came from Tau Ceti, and they petitioned the native inhabitant of Venus, which was the bee, if they could live there. And they said yes. So they decided the Aldebarans and maybe the Pleiadians, I think Raymond told me it was 18 million years ago, or longer, they had spliced the humans with the bees, thinking, oh, that's a great worker race, a perfect farmer race. But like War of the Worlds, an asteroid struck or a meteor struck the planet, kicked up bacteria that killed off the Aldebarans and left the Vril technology. And eventually the Venusians were able to access this technology and to learn the secrets of the Vril. So here's more questions here. It says, your moon is a way station for interplanetary spacecraft, but it's under the purview of the Abahar and Commander Rains. Preparations are ongoing for the eventual arrival of Terrans on the moon and Mars. Colonization on the far side of the moon and certain locations on Mars will be restricted. That is all I'm permitted to say at this time. As you know, I'll skip that part. Those truly walking in the light will never needlessly frighten, alarm, or take advantage of any individuals in any way whatsoever. This is where Dr. Frank Strangeman might conclude spiritual discernment comes into play. So if someone quacks like a duck, waddles like a duck, looks like a duck, you can be pretty sure that one is a duck. So you just trust your intuition when you reach out and you're looking for truth. You have to kind of find where you're at. And so I was asking, about the pole shift and stuff like this and Nibiru, and we'll answer those questions. So I said about the pole shift, and there's lots of magnetic shifts, but it's the axial flip. It takes place every 5,000 years. So it says, have no fears, my friend. The magnetic poles of Sean, another name that they call Earth, are always in flux and occasionally flip. The big problem will come with an axial slippage or flip. That is an event further along in the mist of time, not in our lifetimes. Probably within the next 500 years, give or take. It says this is a lot. So now here's what the Queen answers some of my questions, and I'll read the ones that I can that aren't to her. Well, here she says something nice. She says, dear beloved Rob, thank you for your faithfulness in working for peace on earth, and particularly for fostering it among the circles of light workers, the ones who should be setting the example that leads to the inclusion of your world in the celestial realms. On presenting truth, Please know that when you're walking in the light, the Holy Spirit will prompt you in what you should say or do. Have no fear in that regard. Virgil, or Raymond, understands that he is the cosmic postman. He delivers the message, and what those receiving it do afterwards is up to them. Virgil expects nothing in this incarnation, although contingencies have been made for its financial and personal well-being have already been taken care of. I asked about Semyasi. Of Semyasi, she is a commander in the Pleiadian interstellar forces charged with the monitoring of their own Earth contingent. Insofar as the Pleiadians conform to the protocols established on Venus for establishing Earth contact from time to time, we have worked together. However, she is not aligned with Abahar or our own confederation of planets. So what I like to say is that that means, to break it down, you can listen to this again, is that, again, Semyasi and the planet Era are not in our particular confederation. Our particular federation includes Venus, Tau Ceti, Sirius, Alpha Centauri, and there's 601 planets and 51 systems that are members. And our system is a member, and our solar council is represented actually by Venus. And the reason the Venusians must go through the Pleiadians must go through the Venusians, because it is their solar system. They do respect the sovereign right. Most of the benevolent extraterrestrials have a working relationship. So they do work together. And it's not that they're against each other. They have certain rules where they, as far as exchanging and living, Raymond's explained to me, if you're a member of the same system, you can actually live on another world. Otherwise, you're just coming as a tourist. You don't get like a stamp where you can live on another world if you're a member of that confederation. So there are certain type of diplomatic and established relations out there. So I talked about Gabriel Green, who introduced Raymond to the woman that took him to Venus, as you'll learn. And it said that he shared an awareness that while those of Venus and other extraterrestrial planets do live quite extended lifetimes and enjoy a technology that those of Terra or Earth can only refer to as magic, we of these third and fourth dimensional realms are not gods. About 18.5 million years ago, by the reckoning of Earth time, scientists on Abahar began to study the complexities of DNA and cell composition and its interaction with the electrical impulses which course through a human or even a hybrid body. Due to this, they utilized the equipment of a long-lost colonizing force from the Aldebaran system. They were scrutinizing the essences of the vital life forces, or vril energies. This is what Maria Orsek was getting from the Aldebarans, which was benevolently intended. Hitler put her under house arrest and tried to co-opt this technology in a not respectful way, to grasp it and to use it to scheme over others. So she eventually became a lieutenant in Valiant Thor's fleet in 1945 and worked aboard Victor I over the Northern Theater. So this information that was intended to get kind of got co-opted. So the vril can be used for good. It can make you healthy and live longer, and it could be used negatively. So, energy is not created or destroyed. It's neither good or bad. It's like light. Light just is, okay? Fred taught me that one. In this process, they came to understand that the exposure of the nucleonic acids in specific cell structures to controlled radiation levels could induce a temporal interchange of subatomic particles. This resulted in eliminating the aging process in living tissue. They also succeeded in regenerating damaged tissues through a subsequent acceleration of the healing process. The overall pattern of this process could thus be impressed upon every cell of a human or hybrid body through the infusion of higher levels of vril energies. I like to call it the quickening, the kundalini, the making yourself enhancing and fanning the flame of your Christ self by invoking the living presence of God, the Word of God, or the flame into your spiritual and physical bodies. In turn, this resulted in significantly expanded lifetimes for all Abahans, in some cases extended for thousands of years. However, this process cannot extend a lifetime forever. That is why even the greatest masters in the third and fourth dimensions must eventually pass on and reincarnate in new bodies. The immortals, or those you perceive as gods, exist in the lighter densities of the fifth, sixth, and seventh dimensions, to which we all shall one day attain to. Ultimately, we shall all find ourselves in the unity of spirit, totally beyond the boundaries of space and time. We all began in the field of consciousness in the lighter densities and shall one day return there. This is called the return. Some philosophers compare this cycle to that of a drop of rain forming in the clouds, or the birth of the individual consciousness, then falling into or returning to the ocean or cosmic consciousness from whence we came. Your scientists are on the verge of discovering some of the keys to unlocking virile energies and significantly extending human and transhuman lifespans. When that time comes, you will be requiring our assistance in dealing with this properly to ensure the smooth transition of your civilization into a new and exciting age of expansion in countless fields and areas of endeavor. This is the Queen Orla of Abahar. We are of one mind. So that kind of was exciting. Raymond, why don't you take any questions, or if you want to comment on, the extended lifespans, or, I mean, there's so much in there. I just wanted to go.
Oh, sure. Once you get beyond the seventh dimension, the differentiation is so fine that it's negligible, but dimensionality goes on into infinity, through this universe, through multiverse and omniverse. It's encompassing the whole thing. And the closer you get to the center of any galaxy, the lighter the densities are, and the center of every galaxy is occupied by a dark star, and that we would call a black hole, and that's the key nexus for all the stargates, and the transfer of what's called fluosi, or light tunnels of light energy. That's the only thing that can that really could transit properly a black hole or form a wormhole to connect with other star systems.
So this is what we call the Grand Central Sun. It's kind of an interesting metaphysical progression. Can you talk a little bit, Raymond? And what I've been learning from him, Alfred, is how, and I'm not here to correct people about fourth or fifth dimension. I don't know what's coming in the future, but when we think of dimensions, we're in the third. The Venusians are in the fourth, and there's some way that they can. I think we would be able to see them. They may lower or densify a little bit for here, but we can easily interact there. Raymond was very fortunate in that he was able to use some of the technology on Venus to look into the time scopes, into the past and the future in some of these time tunnels. So the fiction that we learn is really more like science fact. Raymond, maybe you could share a little bit about the time and things and stuff. I don't know. I mean, whatever you think. Alfred, you must have a ton of questions.
Well, yes, I would like to ask this, and it's sort of a long, because I'm trying to look at it from a solar system point of view, and quite recently, what I've been focusing on is sort of the trifecta of Tiamat, Mars, and Earth. Tiamat, of course, was that verdant planet that, by one account, they talk about it in the Law of One. There was around 700,000 years ago, according to some sources, we're just trying to get the best sources. There was a reptilian human nuclear war, and it is now the asteroid belt. It was Tiamat. It was a verdant planet, and Mars was a verdant planet like Earth, and there was at the same time, as in that same time zone, give or take a few thousand years, there was a reptilian human nuclear war. This is all part of the diaspora from the Draco attack on Lyra, and we're all like in the diaspora from Lyra, humans, and we're kind of refugees in the solar system from Lyra. And so we're sort of our backs on the wall here on Earth from Lyra. Now, the great puzzle is that we have this history of Tiamat blown up, and there are 2 billion souls, according to the Law of One, that were held in suspension for 100,000 years because of this traumatic nuclear war, and now are sort of in an incarnation cycle here on Earth, kind of R&R. And then we have the Martians that were in a verdant planet, and of course their planet is a pumpkin planet with no atmosphere now. And here on Earth, we've been holding off nuclear war now for 50 years, and we have about a million reptilian souls that are in human bodies. They control politics, finance, media, government, and they're playing with nuclear weapons, and they're trying to get a nuclear trifecta to blow up Earth. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, yes.
Now, let me get to my question.
Okay.
I was just setting the stage. Now, all of a sudden, almost outside of this whole thing is Venus. Why is Venus? It's almost as though Venus is in another dimension. It's kind of out and above, maybe because it is still, it hasn't descended. Why is it that Venus was spared all of the nuclear wars, the reptilian human nuclear wars? Why wasn't Venus the target of these reptilian human nuclear wars that were targeted onto Tiamat, that made it the asteroid belt, onto Mars, that made it an obloid barren planet, and Earth that makes it this, you don't know whether the thing's going to blow up the next day or not. We have madmen in power. Why not?
Raymond, answer that. Raymond's got a lot of knowledge on that.
Oh, okay. Well, the Venusians have long had a technology well in advance of the technology we have today, and they've been able to aptly defend themselves. They have warded off invasions from reptilians and other interloping star races, species, defending the solar system. George Adamski talked about the time in our solar system when there were great interplanetary wars, and George Van Tassel also talked about the destruction of the then fifth planet, and the creation of the asteroid belt, and so forth. And he said, beside the asteroid belt, if you look around on the surface of all the planets, you could see the evidence through cratering of bombardment and a great war that took place in ancient days. So yes, the history of our solar system is very complex. We are on the outer rim of the galaxy, and it's sort of like the Wild West out here. But the more settled and lighter densities and higher beings, higher dimensionalities exist, the closer you get to the galactic core. And so when we look through the constellation of Sagittarius with our telescopes, our great telescopes, and like the Kepler probe and everything, we could actually detect the realm of the black star, of the black sun at the core of the galaxy. So we are in a rough neighborhood, and the Venusians have said that they do fear us now, because we are dipping our toes into the cosmic ocean. We're developing atomic energy, atomic weaponry, and delivery systems that can take it to other planets. So they will step in if they have to. They've described us as being like a child playing with matches in a dynamite shack.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me that the development of the United States Space Force is a clear threat to the rest of the solar system, if not the galaxy, because the United States is directed by duality consciousness, which is I win, you lose. It's not directed by unity consciousness, which is we are one. And as far as I can tell from what you've said, Venus and its population and leader exists in unity consciousness, which is we are one. Is that correct or not?
Yes, that is correct. That is correct. They exist as a collective. The humanoid and hybrid population is modeled after the bees, and it's a society that's endowed with cooperative
Telepathic communication.
and telepathy, and so the people are as one. They're of one heart and one purpose, and that gives them a very strong advantage.
Now,
in
why is it that Valiant Thor was not able to be more successful? Was it the military-industrial complex? Is that what happened?
I can answer that one. He gave that message, and he was there for 3 years. He came and went, but it ultimately boiled down to the money and the way that we are looking at it from our militaristic viewpoint. It was capture and kill and ask questions later, and to this day, it's capture and experiment. And they want controlled DNA. That's what they're into. They realize that's the game, and they want in. And they want to do it, and they want to be aggressive with it. Venus has gone through these stages. They went into a transhumanism where AI almost took over. They've gone through various phases. But in the rounds of existence of incarnation from the denser planes into the higher planes, there's a constant flow. Like we're physical, and then we're going to Venus, the fourth dimension, and then there's higher dimensions and various other planets for different experiences, not only in the solar system, but throughout the galaxy. And Raymond shared with me from his vast metaphysical knowledge that many of the beings are choosing to incarnate on the fourth dimension to serve the third dimension. This is, in a sense, where the rubber meets the road. This is the vanguard of spirit, of bringing light to dense matter. So a being can serve in this dimension and ascend straight to the grand central sun, to the seventh dimension, and bypass the fifth or sixth or seventh, supposedly. I mean, I don't know. When you get into these things, we're just making things up. But what I found really interesting is that they have been through this, and they are so patient. They will not ever speak bad about others. They will not answer the questions like, what are you guys doing? And what's this? And they're just like, we're just being really good. We're watching, and we're shedding our light energy with people that we interact with. And that's it. And if you choose to listen or take the mental impressions, you do. They never force anything. Right, Raymond?
Yes, they respect the sovereignty of all races and all individuals, all nations. Um, we progress at our own speed, and when we catch up to the 2 million years or so advanced evolution of the Venusians, some will get there ahead of others, and they'll undergo a process called translation, where they'll just be taken up bodily to Venus or to a lighter level of density.
Now, what is it that accounts for the advanced status of Venus? If you take Earth, you take Mars, you take Tiamat, you take Venus, each of those has different histories, and they're all planets in the same solar system. Why is it that Venus evolved the way it did and ascended the way it did, or failed to descend? There's some versions that say that we're in 3D, but we were at 12D, and there was a great catastrophe which came about because of experiments into negative energy, which just forced the descent of all of our planets down to 3D. And what accounts for Venus's ascended status as opposed to the other planets in this solar system? What is that?
Well, the emergence of sentient beings on a planet is determined by when they arrive, or how they arrive when they've left this sort of well of souls, a realm of light. They're here to learn and to serve before they themselves can go on. In Theosophy, they refer to this realm as that of the Pleroma. So the inhabitants of Venus were the first in our solar system to emerge from that realm of light, from that Pleroma, and that's why they have a jump start. And that's part of their role. That's part of their mission. As our elder brothers and sisters, they're here to guide us and the inhabitants of other planets to bring them along. I guess they're kind of like a cosmic babysitter.
Right. Now, would you say, let's just look at some things. Would you say that the avatars that come here, are they Venusians? Was Buddha and Jesus Christ, were they Venusians?
Oh yes. In the Bible, there's many references. For example, in Revelations, the last chapter of the book of Revelations, I think verse 22, or 22:16, it says Jesus Christ self-identifies as with the planet Venus. He said, "I'm the bright and morning star, the root and offspring of David." And then the Apostle Peter, and I think it's 2 Peter, he said, "Let the morning star rise in your heart." Of course, referring to the planet Venus.
So what has been seen through a lot of different filters, be they religious filters, mythological filters, etc., really is sort of the insemination of Earth by Venusian sort of beings and learnings that have over time sort of brought us,
Yeah,
continued up.
the way I think of it, Alfred, is we're in junior high school. They're graduating, they're high school and graduating. They're like, they're looking back and go, they're not going back, oh, look at you, punky freshmen coming in. They're more like nurturing and setting a good example and, guiding us. The interaction, it's all up to us as how we choose. We have to use imagination. One of the things that they've been teaching me is called the tensor equations. And to practice this, we practice what is called a thalamic and cortical pause between the intellectual mind and the emotional mind. Instead of just having an experience and blurting out a reaction, there is a perception and awareness and a beingness and a direct gnosis, which Robert Heinlein, paraphrases grokking. It's kind of stopping the internal dialogue of the shaman, of Don Juan, or the science of Kriya Yoga, or the science of the still breath in the Hindu religion. And so this path of kind of like a quickening of the consciousness comes place with an electrical impulse in the physiological body. It's literally, getting control of your signals and aiming your consciousness, like from the base of your brain, is a linear accelerator, and the target source is the third ventricle in your brain, the pituitary pineal receptive and projective reality construct of it's like a scalar wave, the top of your brain. And so as you function from these higher chakras or higher they call it the alta major center, it provides a balanced flow of neural hormones that allow all the feelings of love and consciousness. And so what we have is these subtle alien intervention, as the Queen said. Through subtle alien intervention, we've been influenced, and our spiritual development does not match our technological development. So it's, I liken it to gasoline that's filled, and, we call them the tall whites or the Anunnaki. These are masculine, feminine, kind of both sex, the tall whites. In fact, I'm going to pull the picture up. We can go to another area of conversation, but these are the Anunnaki. Now, the Anunnaki, according to Raymond, they may have come, we're talking to a Pleiadian who said that he thought they came from Andromeda galaxy, which they may have, but they're originally, maybe that's where they're from, but they were on a planet that somehow left the Sirius system. And because the radial arm is kind of like a scythe, it's kind of, a curve, like a crescent moon. It left from the center. It was out in the middle of space for a long time. And it was finally caught by our sun. It now has a very broad range elliptic orbit of the Earth, and it's about 3,600 years. And I asked Raymond about that. And I asked the Queen, she confirmed what Raymond said from his understanding his time on Venus as he researched this, is that it comes every 1,500, 1,600 years. I think there's a dwarf star associated with it. And because they're out in space, they mine their planet pretty heavily. And I guess maybe they were colonized or taken over by the reptilians. So, and because they've been taken over, we haven't walked a mile in their shoes, but now they are taking this type of, we consider invasive control, domineering type of consciousness that is a parasite to other life forms, in a sense, draining on that energy. Instead of a positive interchange, it becomes one more of a vampire manipulation instead of one of coherence and cooperation. And the human saurian hybrids of the Babylonians in that story, and some people, the Bible, they're taking these older stories. Well, these are the ancient stories. So it doesn't matter whether it's Babylonian or biblical or this, they're all related. They all have some elements of truth from these ancient lineages of light that establish the records. And the Queen has told me that the records are stored in the earth and on the earth, and will come out at some point when mankind is ready to actually understand it and study it, and we will develop these technologies. But it's, the onus is on us. So that's right, Raymond, but the onus is on you, right?
Yes. Well, in my second book, The Final Countdown, Rockets to Venus, I explore the mysteries of Nibiru and the revelations about the planet Anu, which was around a proto-star in the Sirius sector. It doesn't revolve around Sirius, but it's very close to it. And the transit of that planet, 8 light years distance over a very long time until it reached the Earth's orbit. So, but I wanted to say one thing about the Venusians. They do have a calling card that they've left throughout history, and it also is an identification with the bees, and is found in all the esoteric schools. And that's that for every higher orbit of Venus corresponding to a Fibonacci number, the next lowest Fibonacci number exactly corresponds to it with the orbits of the Earth. So that forms a grand spiral. And of course, a lot of crop circles are in the form of a grand spiral. And it's also the way that the Fibonacci sequence is also found very much so in nature, but particularly in the beehive. The number of bees in any hive is always going to be a Fibonacci number because of the way that bees reproduce. They do a kind of waggle dance to communicate and show each other where sources of nectar are, with a spiral kind of dance and so forth. And then we have all these ancient civilizations and peoples identifying the bee as being a gift from the Venusians to the people of Earth. And then in the there's just so many different semantic star patterns and so forth that totally identify Venus as the supreme center in our solar system for guidance and wisdom.
It's like a harmonic. We're in a relationship, the Earth and Venus, like the higher self and lower self in a sense. And this harmonic is being played out. And I was kind of thinking like you said you've been on Mars, so now we're having Mars is conjunct Venus on your show. Exopolitics, Mars is conjuncting Venus, and we're going into a new planet, and maybe you'll we're looking for people who are interested to work with us to just share. We'd like to do documentaries. We got a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, we could just take Raymond's book and just make it really easy to understand. It's quite exciting.
Oh, yeah. I mean, one of the proposals that I'm going to make as we get toward the end of the hour. We've got about 15 minutes left in this particular segment, because that's when we're going to hit the magical 2-hour segment. I mean, these 2 hours have kind of flown by, and I'm going to make a proposal. I don't know whether y'all will be open to it, but I know that our audience will, and that is. Those 3 books are probably full of knowledge that I know that our audience, because we've been so Mars oriented and we've been so exopolitics oriented, like what is the U.S. doing, and what are these guys in Washington or Moscow doing? Like, who cares about them? We want to know what the Venusians are doing. They're the people in the know.
Well, I
And
think
so,
I want to say though, Alfred, it's really what are you doing in yourself?
yeah,
If we're projecting it out, this is where
yeah,
the Venusians are like this giant mirror. There's
yeah,
all mathematical stuff going
yeah.
on there. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I get it. I get it. So, would you be open to, over time, uh, structuring a program, say one program each over each of your books, say to open it? I mean, we're in kindergarten as far as Venusian Venus studies. Would you be open to that?
Sure, sure. I'd be
Oh,
delighted to
great,
do that.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, good, good. Yeah. Now, sorry, I didn't mean to cut off anything there. Were you going to say something, Robert? Or
Oh, no, no. I'd be
oh,
very delighted to share that information. That's why I'm here. I feel that that's my purpose on the earth, is to extend this information to the
yeah.
public at large.
We have
Now,
long conversations about that. We'd be happy to do it.
oh, good, good. Now, I've got two questions I'd like to ask. One is about the bees. Everybody who follows, nature now, we're all concerned because the bees are under tremendous attack here on Earth. How does that figure into the relationship between Earth and Venus? Because it seems to me like the dark forces on Earth understand everything that we've been talking about, and the last thing that they want is a rapprochement between and an awareness among Earthlings that there's something to learn here from the Venusians. And yeah, go ahead.
I want to say what it is this subtle alien intervention, the Omegans, the Calrans, the Dracos, the Reptilians, the Saurians, the hybrids of these various, and maybe others. I've heard spider beings, but I mean, really, let's just imagine we're all humans, and it's just a subtle intervention that is just kind of like entraining us, because we have to break out of this cycle of ignorance and sleep in the psycho-spiritual corporal body by understanding the laws of the universe and following the teachings of the masters to develop this presence in ourselves. This is the key. It's not, what we have to do, or we do this or do that. It's, Raymond, maybe you can explain that. It's a self-generated consciousness, right?
Yes, yes. But and more specifically about the bees, I would say that they're very concerned about the 5G expansion, 5G networks, because these signals interfere with the guidance, internal guidance of bees.
Everything, genetic altered foods.
Now that the bees have enough problems, and now we're adding another one to it. So the bees on Earth, the small variety, in their many manifestations, are the vanguard of the Venusians, and I explain in my Venus books how bees have helped the Venusians on their missions here on Earth on many different occasions. So probably in another time I'll be able to explain some of those with space missions and with protecting Venusians and swarming around their enemies, and so it's really quite amazing, and it's all documented. All these books have hundreds and hundreds of footnotes, and it's not science fiction. If anybody doubts the authenticity of it, they can follow up on these detailed footnotes. They're all in the Chicago Manual of Style, 14th edition, so they're very comprehensive, with commentary by myself and other scientists and metaphysicians and ufologists. So it's all quite amazing, really.
Raymond has a lot of pop cultural references. He interjects humorous anecdotes, and you see these. He'll put in music lines or pictures or images or kind of themes that we kind of have that will kind of trigger a whole series of thoughts. And I was kind of like, Raymond, this is such a serious book. I want it to be like metaphysically revealing. I felt like he was kind of like bypassing the reality of some of the stuff by putting this lighthearted stuff. And I can see the wisdom that it would become too heavy if it kind of was presented in this linear, this is the way it is, which
it would be, if I didn't have them there, it would be like reading the Encyclopedia Britannica. But these certain memes, they spark a higher level of consciousness and facilitate an easy understanding of a really complex subject. They make it easy to understand.
Yeah. Well, no, just your statement that the 5G is that the bees are at peril of the 5G, and that is a signpost of human civilization and its relationship to our higher, more evolved civilization, the Venusians, is vitally important, because we have the People's Republic of China under Huawei. We have the Trump administration that have thrown their full weight behind 5G. I mean, this is probably the most. I mean, I'm part of the stop fight. Sorry?
It's a broad step towards mind control in their wet dream. But they cannot magnetically cover the whole planet. They do have satellites and stuff. So the good thing is an EMP takes it all out, or what they're doing is they're putting the 5G in the lampposts in downtown cities. It's bad enough that they're up on the towers, but what they're trying to do is to bring it in on lower levels to have a more damaging effect on the body. And what we're saying they're doing it. We are allowing it, and we have to look up to the game. And eventually, I think at a certain point, it becomes a thing where, I mean, I don't advocate violence in any way, but I mean, I can see, I think that certain individuals, are going to start shooting at them or something and breaking them up. But I think it's really the grid system that people have allowed themselves to be connected in this artificial virtual world instead of an energetic relationship to each other. And this is the key, the television and the screen watching.
Well, listen, I cannot underemphasize. I mean, it's hard to overemphasize the peril at which humanity is now, just connecting those dots of the 5G, the bees, the Venusians, and the human souls. Those dots are in peril. I mean, anybody that's watching this and doesn't see the peril is part of the problem. Do you see what I'm saying? So I think that this is the peril. This is the peril. And
on Venus, they did fight countless millennia ago. They fought a war against the machines. That's
it. The AI. The AI.
After this great war was over, they simplified their machines.
Now, let me ask you, was Napoleon Venusian?
In the tradition of the Roman Empire, because bees were associated with the goddess Venus, and the Roman emperors that were derived from the first Caesar, who was descended from Aeneas and Lady Venus. They started the tradition of embroidering bees on their robes. This carried over to the Cathars and the Merovingians, And
right.
then by the time it got to Napoleon, he continued it. So
Yeah,
his royal cloak and everything
I see.
embroidered with bees.
One of the
I
things
see.
that I asked Raymond is I go, well, why don't they address this? It's, and they go, and Raymond's kind of like, Rob, would you stop saying it's bad, it's bad, it's bad? Because you can't present it's bad, because then all people do is look for fear in the corner, hopelessness that they're doing it to us. We can't do anything. And it's peril, like you were saying, peril. It is. It's not that it isn't. It's that it is. And at this point with the technology, we really don't have a choice. It's very difficult to survive at our level of lack of hands-on survivor skills to forge a new world. We're so reliant on other people that at this point, it's very difficult to break away. We can see the underpinnings could just collapse under pressure. But I believe we will collapse in the cymatic shift, where if you watch sound frequency on the plate with sand, it's in a structure and then it goes into chaos and then it reforms in another structure. I think that's what we're going to do. Raymond, that you were mentioning that with the harmonics of manifestation before.
Oh yeah. Oh yes. Yes. Well, one of the things that would be great. I see that we're almost running out of time, but the next broadcast, if we could play Lady Orta's Valentine's Day message from 2017, because that's very, very beautiful and very ever relevant and timely.
It's really good. The thing is, you know what, Alfred, maybe there's a way you, as the initiator of the Zoom, can enable my computer sound to kind of be master over it. I think that's, if I remember, I might have done that with Louisa. I don't know. But
Well, look, we're now coming. We can solve these technical issues between now and the next program.
Yeah.
But my ears perked up at the ladies' Valentine's Day's message. So why don't we schedule a Valentine's Day's broadcast of the Valentine's Day's message? It seems to me that that's totally appropriate, is it not?
Oh yes, that would be great.
I'll be
sorry.
back in LA. I can do it on the 14th. Raymond.
Okay, good. And what we'll do is we'll schedule a technical session sometime before that to make sure that we've got all of those technical things worked out. I think I have a way that we can do that. Now, before we go, I want each of you to say how people can get in touch with you and with your work. Robert, please.
For me, my website is down. It's completely down now. But best way right now would be Facebook. And some people don't do Facebook. On website, hopefully will be up and functioning. But thepromiserevealed.com. And then I'm posting on Facebook on my Robert Potter public page, my Robert Potter page, my Victor of the Light radio page. I'm on bbsradio.com. And I have a link to the Mount Shasta Summer Conference. Again, going to be at the Conscious Life Expo with Raymond. Raymond's going to probably join me at the New Living Expo in San Francisco. And he's definitely coming this summer along with Omnic and my friend from South America. And what we're hoping to do is we do understand. We want people to be aware, but we need to focus away from what they're doing to us to gathering our resources into a spiritual cohesiveness in the consciousness of the bee. And this is where some of these women leaders are coming out. These women are they manifest stuff, and it's about establishing a presence in a group meditation. With Louis, the ships come and they actually do lend energy to your consciousness in the feeling. So those are the ways to reach me. And I want to thank you, Alfred, for having us on and being open-minded. And Raymond, I want to thank you for coming on with me on this show as well. So
Oh,
Thank
totally, totally. And and Raymond, how can people reach you? And importantly, again, what are your books and where where can we get them? And I know that our next program will be on Valentine's Day. And what is the name of that message? And what book are we going to start with first? I know it's a lot of questions, but go for it.
Okay. The books are all available and on Amazon.com, and just type in Keller, Venus Rising. That's the first book, is Venus Rising, A Concise History of the Second Planet. It's all fully illustrated, over 100 photos, some in color, fully footnoted. It's a very beautiful edition. I don't know if you could. There's
Oh yes, we can see them there.
and then the second book is The Final Countdown: Rockets to Venus. This is all about the efforts of people on Earth to contact the Venusians through various methods, through magic, through religion, through space science, space probes to other planets. And then the third book is Cosmic Rays, Excellent Venus Adventure. And this is all about my continuing adventures with Venusians and on the planet Venus. And I also came up with the documentation that proves one of the prophecies and one of the things that Onek wrote in her book about a German connection to her village on Venus. So this is a really great book. And VenusConciseHistory.com. VenusConciseHistory.com is my website. It's all one word.
VenusConciseHistory.com. Great.
I'd also like to say Raymond's writing, he's finished the fourth book. He's translating one of Louis's amazing books. And at the same time, there's a woman who was born on Earth who translated, became young.
Oh, Rob, don't give that away yet, because I'm still in the process of working on it.
You don't want to tell a little bit about it?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Oh, listen, we got plenty now. I'm not going to let you go until you answer address this final question. I promise this is the final question. But we just have spent almost the last 20 years dealing with whistleblowers, all sorts of whistleblowers telling us about secret bases, secret US and Russian and British bases on Mars. Are there any secret Earth bases on Mars, and are there any whistleblowers, etc.? Over to you guys.
Well, there is a secret space program, and while I was in the military, in the Navy, and the Army, the information is very compartmentalized, and it's only on a need to know basis. I was a voice intercept operator in the Spanish language, mostly in Central America. So I didn't have privy to that particular information, but I do know that there is a secret space force, and I do know some people that were very high up and actually participated in it that I could refer you to that might make some outstanding guests on your program.
Muy bien, y por eso usted es Águila 1, ¿no?
Sí, sí.
So that if I understand what you're saying, is that you believe that there may be secret Earth bases on Venus in the same way that there were secret
not Venus. No manned vessels are permitted to land there at this present.
Oh, good. Well, no. That was the answer I was seeking. So that there are no secret Earth bases on Venus.
There are
No.
Earth people working on bases on Venus, though. I will
Oh
say,
yes, and in the book, in the second book, Final Countdown: Rockets to Venus, that tells about Russians and others that have been transported to Venus that to bring special skills that they have and abilities that they have gained on Earth, knowledge, and to help with the with the Venusians on the physical plane. For example, most of the inhabitants live underground, and they have huge spires that are hydroponic gardens, and they need agriculturalists and many different specialists from Earth from time to time.
Okay.
Sometimes they come there for a little while.
Okay, so next program, we're going to find out all about what Venus is like. Okay?
I'd like to say the answer to the question from my side on Mars. I do think that they do have bases there, and I want to just refer.
You mean bases? Where are you talking about?
On Mars?
Oh yeah, no, sure. We look. Exopolitics TV has covered that for the last 20 years.
I want to give a point to Trump's recent statement, and he cut to the chase. He didn't really. He kind of, if you read between the lines here, he said, "We're going to go to the moon, and then we're going to Mars, and we're going to use the moon as a launching base for Mars." Now, when you think about it, all we really supposedly have are these Titan rockets and these solid fuel propellants. How are they even going to build a launching pad from the moon? And who's going to get that stuff up there and a mission control? Obviously, it's simply seamlessly they're going to reveal this technology that exists, but we have to become responsible. That's what I feel.
Right. Let's take Mars and put it on a shelf.
Yeah.
Our interest is Venus. Okay? So what we're saying is that there are no Earth government bases on Venus. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, well, that's a step forward. I feel safer knowing that.
Me too.
Gentlemen, you have added a great deal of knowledge and well-being and welcome information to our audience and to this one person here. And we look forward to our Valentine's Day program and to being in contact with you. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, my friend. A great privilege to be on your program.
Indeed.
Yes, thank you, Alfred. I'm really glad we got together. It's good to see you again. You look great.
Wonderful.
Victor, light to everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Albert.
Thank you.